You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
Welcome to the Christian Car Guy Radio Show.
For over 20 years, making Jesus
King of the road. I say this calls for action, and now.
God's timing is perfect, never too late. He holds the seasons, His plans are great. When the road feels long and the waiting is hard, His love is faithful.
Perfect timing today on the Christian Car Guy Show. It is actually wonderful to be back in the studio with my friend Jerry. As my daughter brought me in today, I still can't drive, but pretty exciting to be here with you this morning, Jerry.
What a blessing to be in here with you, Robbie. I tell you, I've been looking forward to the day having you back in here with me.
And so, yeah, the word perfect timing has phenomenal concepts that just run through my mind right this very second, because there's no doubt in my mind we're sitting here, all of us, because of God's perfect timing. In other words, you know, clearly in the automobile accident that I had 2 weeks ago, it'll be 3 weeks ago Monday, the timing was perfect to save my life in spite of, you know, I went to Jerry's raised body shop yesterday and we inspected the car that I was in, which was a Toyota Prius, and you know, a half a second here, a half a second there. And, you know, we were just talking about that we had these, they were chairs like camp chairs that you would take and sit around a campfire, but we had been to a baseball game. And the way that I loaded these chairs into the car, foolishly, the Christian Car Guy learned something.
How many times do you expect to get rear-ended, though? I mean, this.
And so it being a hatchback and the seats were down, I laid those camp chairs, rather than, you know, putting them horizontal to the bumper, I was vertical to the bumper. Okay. And so, you know, if maybe familiar with the accident, we were rear-ended by a car going 65. We were at a dead stop in a Toyota Prius. And so this car, when it came in fast, it propelled those seats, and I thought originally that it was just the force of the car moving forward that propelled the seats. No, it wasn't. Those chairs were longer than the area allowed for them, and what happened was that one chair went above my head, knocking the headrest into my lap. It was.
Well, you do realize, you know, you shortened the length of that vehicle by about, or the gentleman hit you, about 18 inches. So,
yeah, it was
lost space in a hurry.
And the other seat, unfortunately, went straight into the back of the seat. And actually, I'm wearing a jacket that has a hole in the back of it, right where it hit me between the shoulder blades. But God's timing was perfect because He stopped it. You see, it caused a pseudoaneurysm in the artery in my spine, which would have been deadly if it had burst that artery. But it stopped right where it had to save my life. They had to do surgery to fix that artery, but yet, you know. But a lesson to everybody: whenever you're loading your car, take into account that, wow, somebody could come crashing into the back of you and push whatever it is you have in the back of your car up into the front seat. I mean, and as it did in this particular case. I'm
going to also mention something, talking about just not expecting something, because this is a little off topic, but not really. Another thing I always tell my wife and daughter and other people is, when you're in a turn lane, keep your wheel straight.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if you were to get hit in the rear and your wheel is turned either to the right or to the left, when you get hit, you naturally, your foot will release from the brake and the car's going to move forward. And if your wheel's already cut, many times we see a lot of these accidents where that puts them right into the lane of traffic.
Right. A lot of people are killed every year because it will propel your car. Like you're thinking you're going to make a U-turn in that left lane, so you turn your wheels all the way, and all of a sudden here comes a car. You don't even know it. It happens faster than you can possibly imagine. When it slams into you, the car's going to go turning.
Yep.
And so there's things to think about, that I had really not considered. But the point of it all that I'm trying to get back to is at the end of the day, God's timing is perfect. And, I don't know if it was an angel that pushed whatever away at the moment it needed to happen. All I know is that, I'm here today talking to you, my neck's still injured, et cetera, but I'm, going to be okay, from all standpoints.
And also tell us a little bit about all of a sudden what was in your lap.
My headrest.
Yeah.
That other camp chair literally came across the top of the seat because it was still there. When, I didn't see it until I saw the car yesterday. The headrest was still sitting across the top of the seat with the headrest in the seat. And it actually took all the insides out of the seat, a lot of it, with the headrest. That, it was kind of crazy, the whole thing.
But that headrest hadn't been there, that would have been the noggin.
Yeah, right. That's another part of his timing, or however that was aligned, you don't even know. But what you know is, we're alive and there you go. But the other thing we learned, and I would highly recommend you think about this one. I did not know this, that many firemen and first responders are talking about how many people are killed in electric or hybrid vehicles as a result of these batteries being crushed in these horrific accidents. And so what happened was, because Tammy and I were sitting in this car, it was a hybrid, when it came crushing in, it turned off the power to the vehicle with the windows up and the doors locked. And that not only locked, they were sealed shut by the force of the other car crashing into us, so we couldn't get out of the car, and the car immediately filled with smoke from these crushed batteries, which was it was horrible. My wife is still coughing. In fact, you could be praying for Tammy as she is trying to recover from all that. She was in the car. It took them a lot longer to get her out of the car than it did to get me out of the car. But it's something to think about. Number one, if you're getting an electric vehicle, but number two, to make sure that you have some emergency exit plan.
It's just as you bring that up, and Nick's on the other side of the glass over here, we just had this conversation because his mom just got a EV vehicle.
Right.
And I told him, I said, you know what, one thing I would do, because after your accident, Robbie, I've often thought about it because I see it where cars and people get trapped in a car. But they do make a tool that'll have a little thing on it that you can bust your window out, and also has a little cutter that'll cut your seatbelt, because it's another thing. People get trapped in the seatbelt when those things, they have an igniter, and it sucks the seatbelt to hold you tight in the seat. If it's real, real tight, you cannot release that thing. And this tool will have a cutter.
That's genius. Yeah, if you have an electric vehicle, you need that tool, and you need to have it like in the console somewhere where you can put your hands on it quickly. Because Tammy and I were literally beating on the windows, and again, perfect timing. Here's the example, right? The accident was on. If you're familiar with Winston-Salem, I know a lot of people aren't. But we're on where the hospital is in Winston-Salem, right in front of that hospital, on a bridge that's over the highway right there, and the car is literally on fire in the back. The smoke is coming, and we're just filling the car. And Tammy and I don't know what to do. We're literally beating on the windows, asking somebody to get us out. And they're looking at us like, what are you doing? Well, they can't see because it's dark that the car's filled with smoke. They don't know why we're beating on the windows. We can't get out. Well, the ambulance immediately knows, because I look out of the left of my eye, and the accident did not happen like 30 seconds. But because we were on that right off that exit ramp by the hospital, an ambulance was coming back to the hospital, and it pulled right in within 40 seconds of the accident. And that guy was able to pop the door on Tammy's side, not her door. It took him forever to get her out, but the door behind her, he was able to pop that open and get the smoke out. But the timing of that ambulance, I'll never forget it as long as I live. Like, we're trying to figure out how to get out of this car, and the Christian car guy did not have that tool, Jerry. I know what that tool is, but I never thought about it with an electric vehicle.
And in any car, it's just a great tool. And as a matter of fact, I think Nick looked it up this morning as we were talking, and I think you can get one under $10 on Amazon. They're cheap. I would encourage everybody to have one of those in their vehicle.
That's genius.
The rate of the speed of some accidents. They jam the doors. There's just so much stuff that can, and it's a simple.
Oh yeah, I was in there in that lot yesterday. we
have quite a few of them.
Yeah, they are, and you can see that when somebody, and most of those cars were either, it was the front that was collapsed or the back was collapsed because they were either being, and I guess with all the distracted driving these days, we're seeing more and more of this where people just plow into the back of you at full speed, and like, man, you're trapped in the car because the doors seal shut.
Yeah, I don't think we know how many accidents are caused by distracted driving, and that's either too busy worrying what's on the radio or Bluetooth, or how many people are texting and reading messages while they're driving.
Oh, but we got a Name That Noise coming up for you as far as perfect timing is concerned. We got RK in the Garage. We got a great show for you. We're going to be talking about spark plug timing, too. So we got all that coming up. Stay tuned.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
I say this calls for action, and now.
God's timing is perfect, never too late. He holds the seasons.
Perfect timing today on the Christian Car Guy Show, and how fun. We do have this whole idea of engine timing, right, that we were going to talk about. We certainly talked about it in a car accident, and maybe you have a testimony along those lines where God's perfect timing saved you as he saved me. I would love to hear it. We've always loved stuff like that. 866-348-7884, 866-348-7884. And so the idea of perfect timing, Nick last weekend was on his way back from a trip, and Nick, share what happened.
Yeah, so last weekend I wasn't here. I wasn't here Friday and Saturday. I went on a road trip to Pennsylvania because that's where my mom lives, and she also works at a university up there. And Friday, we went up. It was a good trip. She drove the first half. I drove the second half, and we stayed up in Pennsylvania. Did what we needed to do, but it was a drive back where everything kind of went downhill basically. We were leaving Pennsylvania. I drove the first half, and then my mom, she drove the second half. So when my mom drove the second half, I drove the second half. We were in Virginia, so we had just got into Virginia, and and I was asleep. I was asleep. When I in the car.
It's a good thing your mom was driving.
Yeah.
That's a plus.
Yeah, but we were in Virginia for maybe about the first 30, 45 minutes, and then all I hear is the car just rumbling, and it's shaking, and the check engine light comes on, and for our listeners in Virginia, we were in Front Royal, Virginia, if you're familiar with where that is. But we were coming down the highway, and the car, it just started shaking. The check engine light came on, and we're panicking because
right,
it's a check engine light on, and we're in the middle of nowhere, very far from Winston.
And it's Sunday, I guess, right?
It was Saturday.
Saturday, okay.
So it was
not everybody open on Saturday.
It was Saturday at 4:00.
Oh wow!
In the afternoon, and so ended up. Anyways, we went to an auto parts store. I think it was O'Reilly's or something like that, and they got one of the things that go under the car to see what the code is that the check engine light is on. And they told us the code. They put it out in the paper, and they were like, "So this is the problem." And so we're like, "Okay." Next step, we're thinking, let's see if we can find a mechanic. Knowing that it's 4:00 on a Saturday,
right.
There was a very low probability we were going to get a mechanic. We were calling mechanics after mechanics. We were calling mobile mechanics. At one point, my mom, she said, "Hey, if I drive you to the Hispanic side of the town, do you think you can ask someone in Spanish? Do you have a mechanic? Do you know a mechanic?" Unfortunately, it's a Saturday on 4:00. No mechanic is going to be available. But one mechanic that I did get in contact with, I told him the problem. The problem was the third ignition coil malfunctioned, or it was set off incorrectly. And the guy, he was like, I told him the problem, and he said, well, why don't you just fix it yourself? Now, me, ironically, as ironic it is that I'm a producer for the Christian Car Guy show, I'm not a car guy. I'm not a car guy.
Well, we made progress on Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, so
until Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock, you weren't a car guy.
Yeah, you have to be a car guy. You could be a car guy.
Yeah, so, but I went on TikTok. And I asked, how do you change an ignition coil? My mom's car was a Volvo S6, something like that, along the lines. And it showed me how to change it. Now, I was like, okay, so all we need is the part. All we need is a part. But we went to one of the advanced autos at this point, and we were like, hey, do you have this part? They said no. We asked the AutoZone that was a mile down. They said no. We asked another auto shop if they had it. They all said no. But the AutoZone said another AutoZone in a whole nother town that was like 15 minutes away, they have it. Okay, fine. We're making progress. And then me and my mom, we were like, okay, so let's do this. We'll leave the car at the auto place we were already at. We'll take an Uber to the other AutoZone in the other city. We got the part, and I found, and then I opened my mom's trunk. I mean, not trunk, the front.
Right, the hood.
The hood. My apologies. Yeah, I'd opened up the hood. The video, it made sense on how to change it. It was so simple how to change it. I unsparked. I unhooked the cable that was connected to it, unscrewed it. I got the new coil. Well, took the old coil out, and I saw that it was bent. It was the old coil was bent, so that probably has something to do with it. I don't know, but got the new coil. I greased it up with some type of grease that you're supposed to put inside and out of it, like lubricant or something. I put it in, and we let the car, kind of reset itself. We turned the car on.
And so, how good did it feel, Nick, when you actually? Like, it fixed the car, right?
Yeah, when we put it in, the car stopped shaking, and it was running.
And so what did it feel like to be actually a car guy?
I'm not gonna lie, I felt a little bit like a superhero. I felt, because usually my mom, she makes those drives up from when she visits from Pennsylvania by herself. So it was perfect timing that I was with her, because she would have been alone. She would have been more worried, but now I got it. It was we were with her. So
and God's perfect timing in so many different ways, working on the timing of her car.
And it's
a beautiful thing. I'm really see how resourceful you are when you have to be.
Yeah, social media.
Well, not only that, it's just it's a matter of when a guy fixes something, and you know what it's like, Jerry, when you just like, man, I don't know if I can do this one.
And it's for your mom too.
When you get, I like, man, there's a feeling that happens that's just beautiful. And so the question is, why did they start putting the coils on top of the spark plugs, right? Like, what happened to the days when the coil was on the firewall and you never replaced a coil? Well, we'll get into that with a little RK in the garage when we come back. We even have a little Name That Noise. Who knows what we can get to? We would love to get to your phone calls. If your perfect timing story, 866-348-7884, 866-34-TRUTH. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
I say this calls for action, and now.
God's timing is perfect, never too late. He holds the seasons, his plans are great.
Perfect timing today on the Christian Car Guy Show, as we're talking about this idea of these coils in a car that nowadays, if you're not familiar with what a coil does, it's what takes the electricity from the battery, the generator, as it were, or alternator in the case of most automobiles. I don't know why I said generator. I guess my Model A, it's still a generator. But they had an alternator, and they take that power and they condense it so that it will give the fire to the spark plug to ignite the fuel to make the engine run. And it used to be there was one coil that ran all the spark plugs in a car. But in today's cars, they put a coil right over the top of every spark plug, which is eliminating the middleman, which used to be a spark plug wire and a distributor and all sorts of things that were between the two. And so it's a direct access point to the power. And if you really think about it, that's kind of like when Jesus died on the cross, we got our great high priest, the veil was broken. We no longer need spark plug wires. We have direct access to the power that's straight above us. And it's a beautiful thing in prayer. Well, if you use it, okay, and I just thought I would give an example of how to not do it like I did it yesterday. And I'll admit that I'm not quite on my game just yet based on, yesterday I'd done a lot of different errands with my daughter. I'm not allowed to drive yet. And I was a little bit tired, so I laid down to take a nap about 2:00. And my phone rang, and it was a Jesus Labor Love lady who was at a shop getting her car fixed. Scott had promised to help her, but the shop wouldn't take our credit card. And for those who don't know, that Jesus Labor Love is car repair help for single moms, widows, and families in crisis. And this young lady is pregnant, and she is very upset, very upset. And I'm trying to figure out how to get this precision tune paid, right? Because they won't take our credit card, and she's got to get her car fixed, and she needs it fixed right now. And like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And she is just all over the place. And here's what Robbie should have done. I reviewed it with God later, like, oh, I know where I blew it. We did get it paid, and I was able to get it handled, but it wasn't smooth. And I could tell that she was still upset because it took probably 45 minutes to get it figured out rather than it being smooth. If I had just prayed with her, if I had just said, I won't mention her name. We just need to pray. And I can't tell you how many times with Jesus Labor Love moms, when I've seen them start to go out of control. And of course she's upset. She's pregnant. Her car's broken. She doesn't have transportation. I don't know where the money's coming from. Here comes some of it, $150 in this case that we were paying. And it's like, man. And I just, I just had that opportunity for the perfect timing and missed it. And so I say all that so that you won't have that same thing happen. When people start freaking out around you, and I can't tell you the times I've used it, where I said, can we just pray? And it's amazing how God will come to the rescue. So we're very blessed. Speaking of prayer, one of my favorite prayer partners out there is RK in the garage. So we get a chance to head towards RK. And now time for the legendary garage of RK 88 and still full throttle. So RK, when it comes
good morning, everybody.
Yeah, it is a good morning. It's a beautiful morning out there, and perfect timing is a critical issue, isn't it, RK?
It sure is, because what you just talked about, coils over spark plugs, I am doing right now in the shop, and it's a 5-hour job to change the spark plugs. So the coil over things, they're fine, but they hide them underneath the manifolds and stuff. And so when you get a $500 or $600 bill to change your spark plugs or coils, it's a lot of work.
Now, that's a funny thing, is in some cars' case, like the one that Nick did, replacing the coiler in a Toyota is real easy. But as you just said, in some cases, the engineering is, they like to hide stuff. Jerry, I know you've experienced that.
Yeah.
This is the V6 Edge, Ford Edge I'm working on. You can see you take the cover off the top, you can see the front 3 plugs, but you can't see the back unless you take the complete manifold and gasoline and valve. I mean, the for the gasoline to get in. You have to take all that apart, and hoses and wires and what have you.
It's a challenge, but the engineering, Jerry, you face that all the time too, right?
Yeah, I think that the engineering and the technology behind it is how to make it where nobody else can work on it. I mean, and how they're going to, because there's some stuff, and okay, you'll tell you, I mean, I think you'll tell you, is there's so many things that you look at that could be so much simpler and simplified, but they just don't. Technology, for some reason, they just make it difficult.
Oh, they do.
When we're talking about these things in spark plugs, please, folks, if anybody gets an intermittent, usually it's a P0301, 302, 303 code that is a spark plug that's misfiring a coil. Well, that cylinder. Well, if it's intermittent, there's another problem. Please check the timing out. Please check the timing chains and belts out, because that could cause that problem. An intermittent a miss, not just a normal plug miss or a coil. So please do that. And
right, it's another reason to actually have a mechanic look at some of these things, because you had somebody that had a timing belt issue ended up freezing the engine, right?
Well, what happened was the 93,000-mile SUV Buick, nice car, beautiful car, it had an intermittent miss, and he took it to a shop, which bothers me. He took it to a shop and said, "Oh, that's normal. Hey, you'll have that problem." Well, if you look at the manual in the glove compartment, it says around 90,000 miles, change timing chains in the manual, and has to get to the service shop. Well, that was in the morning at 8 o'clock. It was missing. At 3 o'clock, they towed him in with a blown engine because the timing belt broke, timing chain broke.
Really?
So yes. And it's interference engine. And Robbie, you know that part I put on your Prius there, that valve, that oil pressure valve sensor.
Right.
That goes into the cam, and the cam rotors today, they move. If you look at the top of these engines, they have 4 of those things for retard or advance the engine. And if they get screwed up or something like that, it disintegrates the engine.
Right. What RK is explaining, and very important, extremely important, is that in your maintenance manual, certain cars, even if they have a timing chain, that has to be serviced. The timing belts certainly have to be serviced. And what that does is, you got a piston going up and down in a cylinder, and right? And you have valves that have to open for the fuel to come in and the fuel to go out. So if the car gets out of timing from this standpoint, and we're talking about the opposite of perfect timing, the worst timing possible is if that piston is coming up in the cylinder and the valve is opening at the same moment the hits the valve. And when that happens, catastrophic failure. In other words, so when that timing belt or that timing chain breaks, that timing belt is what's deciding when that valve is going to open, which is the camshaft that he's talking about as well. But what I'm trying to point out to you is when it says change a timing belt or change a timing chain, those are things that you do not overlook, because those are catastrophic, will cost you thousands of dollars when it could have cost you several hundred.
Not all engines, that's only on most of the engines are interference today. In other words, the valve and the piston takes the same place in the engine at different times. But some engines are non-interference. You break it and you just go put another belt on or chain on. But most of them are interference engines, which that causes the catastrophic results.
Okay, I got a question. Well, I'm going to comment one. Robbie said that all the work you had done to the Prius held up just fine during the accident. So that's a positive. The second thing I'm going to ask you, and also Robbie, because what just came up, and you just mentioned how it went into a garage and they gave him some bad information. And I know we're fixing to go to a break, but how important it is to have somebody that you can trust and talk to that knows you. That's why I always say, find a mechanic, body shop, a towing service, whatever it is.
We're going to have that discussion when we come back. We would love to hear from you too.
You're listening to the Truth Network and truthnetwork.com.
I say this calls for action, and now.
God's timing is perfect, never too late.
Perfect timing today on the Christian Car Guy Show. And, during the break, we got a call from a listener who was talking about we had talked about how to get out of a car like Tammy and I were in when it's filling with smoke. And Jerry made a great observation that they make these wonderful little devices that you can just break the windows with. And she wanted to know, is there a better place to hit the window that, in your experience than just, flailing at whatever point you want to?
Well, what you wouldn't think it would be, but with those, if you have that tool just in the dead center of it's the best place. Because if you try to get the corner or an edge, it just kind of, it may chip it off instead of shattering the whole
you need
glass.
out.
Right,
and you need the smoke out of the car. I mean, that was what we were like, man. I mean, it was filling with smoke. But also we got RK in the garage. And you guys, along those same lines of having plans in place, like this is what we're going to do. We're going to break out the window. We have an electric car. We need this because, believe me, you cannot take the windows down and your doors will lock. Whether you like it or not, they'll be locked and the windows will be up. And so you need a plan in place. But also, what happens, like when Nick was talking about it, all of a sudden the car starts shaking and you're in town. There's nothing like having somebody like RK. Well, I call him, he's my roadside assistant, RK roadside assistance. Like, I don't care what, I've got friends, right? But making plans like this, Jerry, is huge.
Yeah, and RK will tell you, having somebody that you trust and that you can talk to and that you have somewhat of a relationship. I mean, there's people who come through Ray's Body Shop and Record Service that I may not see them but once or twice every couple of years, but they kind of will stop by. It's amazing how many people just stop by and just say, I just stopped by to get a cup of coffee. And what it is, you build a relationship with them, and they feel comfortable with you, and that just helps instead of just blindly walking into somewhere, because there's a lot of places where if you don't do enough research and know, it's just like with Nick. I mean, you keep calling people, and everybody is, I'm too busy. Well, at least one person slowed down enough to say, let me help you out a little bit. And it may be nothing other than just telling you how to do it or you can do it. But when we don't have those relationships, it can, I know for me, I want my daughter, like I think I told this story, when my daughter went to Liberty University, the first thing I did is I went up to Lynchburg and I found a facility that happened to be a body shop, and they had a wrecker, but they knew a little bit about everything. I went in and talked to them, told them my daughter was coming to school here, and it was on the edge of campus, and if she has an issue, I'm giving her your name and number. She's going to come here. You're going to help her out and if there's a question, need to pay for something,
right?
You can get the information. Well, I'll tell you what. She was a cheerleader up there, and she was on campus weeks before school ever started. As they started training and stuff, her trunk wouldn't shut, and she was just couldn't figure out what in the world to do. She calls me, and it was on I think a Monday afternoon. So I said, "Well, go down to." The shop on Wards, and then they know that I've talked to them about it, and they'll know you. She did, and the guy called me probably a couple hours after I talked to my daughter Taylor, and she said, and he tells me, he says, you know what? I told her, you can only put so much stuff in a trunk. So once they moved some stuff and put it to the back seat, the trunk worked just fine.
So, RK, I know your experience is the same thing. You got to have somebody you can talk to.
I love it because I've walked into shops and I've listened to people talking to customers, and I've actually walked out because they were just BSing the whole situation.
Yeah,
and it bothers me because I don't treat people that way. I've never treated people that way, and you have to I said to the customer the other day when he left it, he cost him $1,000 to fix his truck, and he was happy as a tickled pink. And I said, "You can wave to me going down the street. You don't have to worry about shooting me or anything like that." He says, "You got that right." You know.
So RK, I'm with you. But it lays out this idea that, gee, I wish I had known. I had a plan in place that, gee, these batteries might be crushed. What am I going to do if I can get my windows down? And I even knew of the tool. I'd taken out of 100 cars, but I never thought about it. But because I hadn't thought about it, didn't have a plan in place. But still, my daughters know who they're going to call when there's a certain situation going on, right? They have it all lined out, race body. You know, if there's a wreck, who are we going to call? If Dad's not available, who are we going to call? My wife needs you. Same kind of thing. Right? That she knows I got a mechanical problem, 1-800-RK. Well, it just is. I mean, like, you know, it's a beautiful thing, but, you know, it was kind of fun for me. I went the other way last week that he had a problem with the Prius and RK was 1-800-Robbie Dillmore.
Yeah, I said, what do I do? And I found out.
But that's the thing, man, is that nobody knows about all cars. But, you know, knowing somebody that knows enough to know, I don't know about that, let me go find out and let me go get some help or
research it and find out.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Okay, but before you get off the line, RK, I'm going to ask you one thing, and I'm asking this also to Robbie, because this is something I tell all of my employees, and I think both of you will agree with this and feel the same way I do. If we're working on a customer's car, if it's towing it or doing body repair, if Robbie's selling a vehicle or it's going through his service department when he's at the dealership, or if it's something you're working on in your garage, I want to make sure, and I tell my employees, I don't want you to be walking through the mall or the shopping center, the grocery store, and see somebody that you feel like I need to duck in another aisle because I worked on that car. I want to make sure they're happy. You know, I want, as you mentioned, I want them to feel comfortable and because I want my guys to work for me to be proud of what they do.
I got to tell you, it brings up so many funny memories in my mind, Jerry, because I wasn't a Christian. You know, when I got in the car business, it happened, you know, after I married Tammy, and she was a Christian, started, you know, getting me to church and all that. But prior to that, you know, I sold some cars, believe me. If I saw the person coming, I mean, I don't know if you remember, but Chevy had these diesels that were just a horrible engine, right? They were.
That V8 diesel.
And I actually didn't know when I sold them how bad they were. But I made the mistake of selling one of them things to my father-in-law.
Mistake.
And so as soon as you said that, I couldn't help but think, man, there was just no way I could dive behind the alley or whatever, because, you know, he would, and that truck, oh my gosh, you know, GM had done such poor planning on that literally.
Wasn't that just really
it was a gas engine they converted, but they didn't even know enough to put fuel line heaters in it. And the first time it got cold, I mean, the cars just came out, and my father-in-law's got this truck, and the first time the temperature dropped below 30, well, diesel oil turns into paraffin wax, right? And the fuel don't run. And so I get this call and we towed about 30 vehicles in that day, and one of which was my father-in-law's, because none of them would run because of the crazy fuel. It's just, you know, sometimes you sell stuff you didn't know. But I'm with you.
We learn.
But, you know, it's that way, not just in your work, right? But, you know, I have this prayer. It's called St. Patrick's Breastplate. And in it, one of the prayers that I pray is, Christ in the mind of everyone who thinks of me, Christ in the heart of everyone who experiences me. Those things that like, you want to be a picture of what Jesus would be in people's minds of grace. And again, it's an honor to work with you and RK, because I know that's how people feel when they work with you guys. Thank you, RK. Thank you, Jerry.
No, thank you.
And
thank you.
I'm so grateful for all the prayers and, oh my goodness, the support that has come in from my family through this difficult few weeks. But again, I am so honored and thankful for all of you listening. Remember, slow down. Jesus walked everywhere he went, got it all done in 33 years. And I understand he had a little glass breaker. If he